Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're doing very, very well today. Welcome back to Inspired Live. Firstly, I really hope you guys enjoyed last month's session. Obviously, we did the kind of new format. We did the kind of webinar where I had Phoebe on, and I think it was wicked. I really enjoyed it. I know Phoebe did too. And I've had some lovely feedback from you guys about that. So there will be upcoming live specials soon. I'm kind of looking at potentially doing another one in May. So if that's something that you're interested in, please do let me know. And yeah, I'm going to let a few people come into the live stream before I get cracking today. But we're back to normal format this month for March. So no Phoebe this month. So I'm sure you're going to be like, oh, great, I'm going to leave now. But I promise I will try and make it as good and entertaining for you as possible, as always. So throughout the session, obviously, I'm going to be showcasing you 5 fantastic LinkedIn posts and pieces of content that are going to help you use LinkedIn more effectively. That is what we do here on Inspired. That is the formula. You guys know it. You guys enjoy it. If you have any comments throughout, please do bang them in the chat. I would love to answer any of your questions, any of your comments. So please do feel free to leave them during the live stream. We'll probably be live for about 30 minutes or so. So if you're joining me today for your lunchtime, I really do appreciate it. So thank you very much. Gonna have a sip of tea because I'm thirsty. Okay, right, let me use technologies and get the prezzo up. There we go. That's better, isn't it? Okay, cool. So let's get cracking. Let's get started. As I said, if you have any comments, please do feel free to pop them in the chat, and I will review those as we go through the session. But I've got to do it, haven't I? Let's jump into this one, people. Let's get going. Okay, so our first post for Inspired Live this March is a great one. I've featured content from Zach Robinson before. I really like Zach's content, and I think he's one of, I would say, one of the few creators who I think really stands out on LinkedIn. And a lot of it is because he has really refined his personality and really refined his storytelling. And this is what this post is all about. So you'll see here it says, and, but, therefore. And the idea around this is how you actually structure stories. Because whilst the story that you tell naturally has to be engaging, it has to be interesting, you want people to have some kind of resonance with it. If it's not structured well, it's not going to deliver the results that you're looking for. So it's a kind of double-edged sword, right? You might come up with the best story or like the most exciting thing that you want to tell people. But if the structure isn't there and the structure lacks that coherence, then you're going to lose people. And obviously that's problematic. We don't want to do that. We want to retain people's interest and we want to get them emotionally invested in what we're telling them about. So Zach suggests using this format, which he calls the and, but, therefore storytelling roadmap. And he says in this post that the and, but, therefore technique creates a strong structure and one that builds momentum and tension for each event, which therefore reacts as it goes onwards. And I think it's a good way when you're creating content to think about that linear process. You want to think about the kind of 3-act structure, the beginning, the middle, and the end, the kind of the setup, conflict resolution, however you want to frame it. And he's got a really nice example here. And I like this because the example that he's using is a promotional piece of content. It's really easy to frame a story in this structure when you're telling someone about, say, like an experience, right? Or something that's not particularly kind of pluggy and, hey, buy my thing or download my guide or visit my webinar or whatever it is. It's quite difficult to do that sort of structuring and that sort of process when you're trying to promote a service. So I like the fact that he's actually used that example, and that's one of the main reasons why I featured it. So he says, by trade, I'm a freelance copywriter who writes for B2B and B2C audiences. And a big part of my work is making complex topics understandable through storytelling. So that's the and, that's the setup. But recently, I discovered the same storytelling techniques I use as a copywriter can also help entrepreneurs become more effective communicators day to day. So he's kind of got the setup. He's then got the focus point, the pain point, as we say. And then he said, that's why, or therefore, in March, I will be releasing a newsletter teaching business owners what to say and how to say it. And I like this a lot because here he says, the but forces you to move in a new direction. And when you reach therefore, you have no option but to resolve the problem. And I think this is a really good foundation for how you should structure content, and particularly effective if you're trying to structure content that is quite promotional in tone, which we all have to do. It's a necessity of using social media for marketing. But sometimes when we have to do the promotional post, it's the one we don't like doing because it's the one that normally gets lower engagement. And a big reason it gets lower in engagement is because of how we structure it. So think about that. Keep that in your mind's eye next time you're promoting your content or you're trying to get someone to do something for you, and think about how you frame what you say as well as what you say. So wicked post from Zach. If you don't follow him, please go and check his profile out. His posts are really good and very funny. So our second post today is from Beth Ward, and this one resonated with me because it's something that I've had to do a lot in my career, and I know something that quite a few people now in Finally Agency are getting involved with, and I think it's a really important thing to talk about, which is actually kind of content calendars. We talk about content, right? We talk about content creation, and content creation obviously is the kind of the pillar of using LinkedIn. It's the building blocks of everything that we do. But calendars are a slightly different ballpark, right? Because some people are really for them, some people are not so much, and they kind of like to freestyle. But when you actually are building a calendar, this is a really nice template to follow. So rather than just having days of the week or weeks in the month and a post that you'd like to send out to your audience, Beth here says the way that she builds a calendar is with these steps. What is my audience's main concern at this point? And I think this is a very topical and important thing to measure, because we always want to make sure, particularly when we're like scheduling content, that we're not being tone deaf, right? We need to be aware. We need to be mindful of what's happening, what's going on in the world right now. And that will have an impact on the relevance and the advocacy that our content generates. The next is their general pain points, which is something that we discuss regularly on inSPIRED. And similarly with Zach's post just then, we reference pain points too. So this is how can we use content as a method to deliver solutions and support to our customers? How can we project and sculpt our storytelling and our messaging in a way that makes our customers more informed, generated with more insight, or just makes them feel as though we understand them? And I think that really ties back nicely into having a sense of relevance, right? So Beth here mentions about the cost of living crisis. Having an awareness of that and having sensitivity around that, and then how you let that kind of topic drip feed into your pain points and your solutions, is really a really strong way to show that not only do you help, but you also care. And then she says things about kind of like, what awareness days do we have going on in the month? And this is a nice thing that I think is very easy to forget, that in the modern world and in this modern social calendar that we fall into, there is a day, or there is something that's happening nearly every single day. And there are a myriad of ways for you as a business, or you as a personal brander, or as a content creator, can get involved with subjects and initiatives that are happening day to day. And that doesn't mean to say that you should exploit them as fads. We know that that's really not a good thing to do. But again, it allows you to maintain a sense of relevance and awareness. And one of the biggest objections to having content calendars, and therefore kind of like content schedules, is that you take the human out of the process, because it starts to become quite automated, right? You schedule in advance, you're maybe not as active on the platform. And tapping into things that are going on in the wider social calendar ensures that you stay relevant and stay within what is going on with your audience. And then she says here, what has worked well in the last month and what do we need to ditch? And I think this is really important. And this is something that myself definitely would consider doing as well, is auditing what you do. So not just creating content and making suggestions for posts and all of that good stuff, but actually auditing on a monthly basis and seeing what's working. Is this working well? Is this beneficial? Is this worth my time? Because by doing that on a month-by-month basis, you get a much clearer and more accurate picture of the posts that you're putting out, the way that your audience is receiving and receptive to them, and making sure that you stay consistent and you remove the stuff that's not working and you create a more tailored and targeted feed. So I think this is a really good way to sculpt a calendar. And if it's something that you've not broached before, I think this is a good format to follow, and one that isn't quite as kind of cliche as day of the month, content type, asset type, etc. So great advice here from Beth. Highly encourage it. Thank you, Molly. I've just seen your comment slightly crackly. Is anyone else hearing it being slightly crackly? If so, what I would do is I will remove these bad boys and I will see if that helps. Let me actually, do you know what? I'm going to try it right now. This is Rogue. Okay, it says the default microphone is now engaged, so hopefully you can still hear me. If you could pop a comment in and just let me know if you can hear, that would be amazing. And yeah, I do apologize if the audio has been a bit naff. Hopefully now it is improved. So let's jump on to post number 3. And yeah, just drop a comment in and let me know if the audio is working okay when you have a moment. So, okay, Logan's saying it's slightly crackly as well. Hopefully now with the headphones, okay, much better. Okay, fab. All right, these, bye. Right, so post number 3. This is from Lara Acosta, and I love Lara's content. I think she's someone who is very engaging, and I highly implore you to follow on LinkedIn if you don't already. And as a content creator and essentially the head of content here at Finally, knowing how to write more concise and how to cut fluff from your copy is like an invaluable skill, like completely and utterly invaluable, because to know how to say something with fewer words and create something more coherent using less is very challenging. If someone says to you, write a 700-word article or write us a great paragraph, writing a great paragraph is really hard. It's really difficult to actually like make your copy shrink and still give it impact. So when you're creating posts on LinkedIn, think about how you actually create content and shrink the amount of fluff. Now, Lara here says things in terms of like using imagery that doesn't suit your post, or like writing content that perhaps is kind of more like engagement hacking, I guess. Like, oh, well, something happened to me and I'm going to post about it because you might get some likes. I'm looking at this a little bit more about your copy, right? And this is what she says here. Focus on creating high value content instead by cutting the fluff with your copy. And I think this is honestly something that is very difficult to do, but is entirely worth the effort and the attention. It might take you a little bit longer to write your posts, but what you'll find is that over time, you will make more concise and coherent content. And this is beneficial for 2 fundamental reasons. The first is that your stuff becomes immediately easier to read. If your post is significantly long, some people will definitely read it, but more won't. And you need to be mindful of that. People have limited time and they have an absolute plethora of choice. So for your thing to stand out and for your thing to actually garner their attention, it's going to take quite a lot. And the second thing is that you actually become a better writer, because understanding how words and sentences connect and how you can actually remove filler words or fluff words, as we want to call them, to actually make that sentence tighter means you're saying more with less. And that is a very good skill and something that I think we can all refine. You know, this is something that I do regular as clockwork. I kind of audit what I write. Is this right? Is this the best way to say this thing? Is there a way I could say it more quicker or sharper or more punchy? And honestly, your content will just improve. And not just your LinkedIn content, but your general writing. And this is, I think, a skill that you can apply to LinkedIn and elsewhere on your marketing journey, however that looks. So wicked tip from Lara. I'm a big fan of this. And let's move on to post number 4. Thank you for your comments about the audio, guys. I really appreciate that. I'm very sorry it was a bit crackly. Hopefully now it's all good. Sticking with the writing theme, we have a post here from Jake Ward. Now, I believe not related to Beth. So, but Jake is a big SEO and blog expert. And I really like his content. I think his content is incredibly actionable. And I think that's something that's very important when I'm picking stuff for Inspired. I'm looking for things that are actionable. And this stood out to me because I think it's very easy for us when we're creating content, especially things like blogs or articles or guides, that we really want to inject SEO because we want to have the right keywords. We want to be looking at what's ranking. We want to be looking at the information and the phrases and the terms that are being targeted by our audience so our content appears higher in search ratings. Makes complete sense and it's absolutely fundamental. But he says here that we should write for people first and then edit for SEO later. And I completely and utterly agree. Because if you write with SEO as your fundamental focus point, you're just not going to sound natural. It's going to sound a bit robotic. It's going to sound a bit jarring. It's not going to have the type of dialect. It's not going to have the type of tone that would be associated with a writer. And one of the biggest skills about being a content creator, whether you write content, make video content, design, whatever it is, one of the biggest and most valuable USPs of content creation is your personality. Your personality is utterly priceless and it's completely unique to you. And SEO, as incredible as it is, can have a tendency to suck out a bit of that personality if you put it at the very forefront of your agenda. It needs to be in your agenda, but not at the absolute beginning fundamental point. The fundamental point has to be the content, and the fundamental point has to be the person who is consuming that content. Because you don't make content for yourself. You make content for other people. And you always need to keep that in your mind. And when I say people, I mean people. Someone on the other side of that screen. So Jake says, outline your content and use SEO information to get the right structure. And this links back very nicely to what we were saying earlier from Zach. So he says that SEO is great for targeting your title, your headings, and obviously those keywords. He says, write your first draft without worrying about the optimization. Then edit so that you interact and you bring in those SEO elements and those things that improve the functionality and improve the search rating, but still retain that humanity in your copy. And he says that your content will be 10 times better. And I am very inclined to agree with him because the best combination is a cocktail of a well-written, well-structured piece of content that is engaging for a person to read and crawlable and accessible for SEO and keywords. That is like the matrimony of great content. So love this from Jake, and I highly implore you to utilize this if you're writing content, especially for things like websites, like blogs and guides. And my fifth post is one that the second I saw it, I knew it had to go in. I just knew, like sometimes I have to do quite a bit of research for this, and other times I just see something and I'm like, bang, it's straight in there. It inspired. I know that. And it's from Julius. And this guy, Julius's content, right? He's got a really nice series on LinkedIn. And he basically kind of profiles other creators and he gives you kind of like key takeaways and talking points from what they're doing. And I myself have learned a lot just from following along from these carousels. So give him a follow just for that, because it's going to be really beneficial for your learning. But I love this because what Julius is talking about here, right, is he's talking about kindness. And I know this is not a content tip per se, but he says, yesterday, 3 people reached out to me here on LinkedIn. They said that my content inspired them to not give up on posting. This may sound like a little thing, but at the same time, it's a massive compliment for me. He knows that he has inspired someone, and that's what motivates him to create content. LinkedIn is not only about business, numbers, and data. It's about forming relationships with like-minded people, building yourself as an open and helpful professional, and letting people understand what is behind all the work-related stuff. And I completely agree. And as we've seen here at Finally, the power of personal branding is completely invaluable. People visit our content now because they like us as people as much as what we talk about. And having kind, quality interaction with people, being, whether that's engaging other people's content, whether that's leaving a thoughtful comment, whether that's replying to a DM or sending someone a nice positive message. I know it seems really arbitrary and obvious, but it's very easy to not do. It's very easy to fall into your structure of you do your post and then you move on and whatever. And actually, that engagement and that community aspect is what keeps people returning. And it's what's going to grow your personal brand. And it's what's going to enhance how people feel about you. And how people feel about you and how they interact with you is completely related to what they're likely to do later on down the line. And whether that's work with you, recommend you to someone, whatever that metric might be, the best way to start doing that is by building those meaningful relationships. And that starts by being kind. And I know that's very obvious, and you're probably like, yeah, I know, mate. But honestly, I think this is a really important reminder. And we're living in tough times right now. It's stressful for everyone. We are in a complicated economy, and having kindness is a really important currency right now. So I think this is a lovely reminder from Julius, and really do give him a follow, because I think his content is not only really helpful, but I think it's really motivating too. And I think that's lovely. So well done. Great post. And now, going to move on to my post of the month. I was supposed to be a dramatic drum roll if you couldn't hear. Drum roll, please. Okay, God, my tea's gone lukewarm. Right, post of the month, people. Let's do this bad boy. So, my post of the month is a big one. And this is, I think, such a wicked bit of content from Richard Moore. And if you don't follow Richard, he is a lead generating personality on LinkedIn. So much of his content is around driving leads, which we know is fundamental to our LinkedIn and our social media performance. And here he has 17 LinkedIn business wins. Now, I let this sit on your screen for a little bit because naturally there's a lot of information. But is there something that you notice about this post? Do you notice the structure? So this structure is very clever, right? So you might have realized I mentioned it, I think, on a previous Inspired. It might have been January's episode. We were talking about descending copy. Descending copy is a brilliant way to pull someone in and get them to read. If they see the text descends, you can kind of see that very gentle arch of the words and the sentences. That makes people feel like they're completing something as they read. It's a very clever psychological hack to make people more inclined to carry on reading, because they're like, oh, well, I've got to number 7. I may as well get to number 8, and I may as well get to number 9, and I may as well get to number 10. And they're filtering their way down your content. It's a very, very clever and subtle way to structure. And maybe structuring content is the overarching theme of March is Inspired. But I really like this, right? Because these are things that people who are in, using LinkedIn primary for business, that's like the primary function of their LinkedIn activity, maybe rather than personal branding or whatever. This is something that's very actionable. And yes, very, very good point. Please, you spotted that out. There's obviously an error on the second to last post. It's basically critiquing not trying to strive for perfection. So don't worry if there's a typo. Don't worry if you use the wrong punctuation. Whilst the thought of this does make me feel a little bit like hives. I do agree. Like sometimes it's better to not edit and rather than punish yourself with the algorithm. But I think this is a very nice thing and a good way to see if you are reading and paying attention. But I'm going to pull out a few of these because I think some of these are really important to focus on. So number 3, I think, is very, very key, which is post your opinion, not others. And it's very easy to kind of ride a trend because other people are talking about it, or pop in, quote unquote, your 2 pennies worth to be part of the crowd. And maybe you don't actually feel that way. A big part of personality, particularly for a business who's trying to like maybe differentiate themselves from other people, is to have thought-provoking opinions and to be proud of those opinions and to back themselves as they communicate those things to their audience. This is a very strong way to position yourself as unique and different. And being unique and different is a very attractive quality to people who are inundated with lots of content every single minute of every single day. The first one I think is important as well, pivoting to calls. You know, when you have got a prospect who is engaged with your content and you've got someone who is interested and listening, and maybe you think, okay, cool, I can take this to the next step. moving away from LinkedIn and maybe moving into the calls, either on the DMs or on Zoom or whatever, is a good way to open up the human experience again and kind of take it off of the social and the typed and actually let people see each other and actually talk to each other properly. So it's a strong way to start building good foundations for those relationships long term. Number 8 is brilliant. Use I can help rather than can I help. Immediately that positions you as someone who knows what they are doing, and authority and assurance is something that people are looking for when they're buying stuff. They want to know that they are buying something from someone who can deliver. They don't want to be buying from someone who might be able to deliver. They want to know that they are in strong, capable hands. So even how you use words, just the order, can have a massive impact on how someone digests that information. Number 13, map your content to clearly be speaking to your niche is something that we talk about a lot on Inspired, and that's because it's important. Actually having a focus, having an area where you have started to breed an element of kind of authority, and you started to maintain a sense of community around that topic is very good and very fundamental for people to feel like they're coming to the right person. And I'm going to focus on number 11 to finish, which is remember, your personality is your superpower. And that's kind of what I mentioned with post 5. That's what makes you unique. The combination of how you portray yourself, what you portray yourself talking about and to who, that creates an image of how people see you. And your personality is kind of like the lighthouse, right? That's the thing that guides everybody back. That's what they see. That's what they approach for. They come to your content, maybe not necessarily because the specific topic of that day is to their liking or their importance, but they like you. You are that lighthouse. And I think personality is really the fundamental DNA of great content. So love this from Richard. Highly recommend you check out his profile if you haven't, because he makes really good carousels about kind of lead generation. Also things like using Sales Navigator if you're looking at using LinkedIn on a more kind of like sales orientated process. He's definitely a person to follow. So well done, Richard. Wicked post. Thank you for that. And that is me done. So these are March's creators. Please do go give them a follow. Millie has been very kindly popping the links to each post in the chat for you. So have a look at them in full. And yeah, check out their profiles, because I'm sure you're going to find boatloads of stuff that's just helpful as the stuff I focused on today. Thank you for spending half an hour of your lunchtime with me. I really do appreciate it. And if you have any feedback about the live streams, do let me know. I'm, open and interested in any feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. I want to make sure that these sessions, kind of maintain interest for you guys. And I love doing them. So honestly, any room for improvement or suggestions that you have would be wonderful. Or if you just have anything kind to say, let me know. That'd be very nice as well. So I'll hang about for a few mo's and see if there is any questions. Once again, I do apologize for the audio. And thank you very much, Faz. It's very kind. Appreciate the kind comment. Yes, I do apologize about the audio. Clearly, my old Apple headphones need to go in the bin. I hope everyone is having a lovely Wednesday. Also, what is going on with this weather? Like, aren't we supposed to be in spring now? This is horrendous. Like, what is happening? Like, the clocks do their thing this weekend, and it's like, I don't know, Narnia out there. Ian says, better late than never, mate. Well, I'm pleased you're here, my friend. Thank you ever so much. Appreciate your support. Right, guys, I'm going to let you go. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you for spending it with me. I really do appreciate it. As I said, any feedback, feel free to DM me or let me know on LinkedIn. And I will be back next month for April's Inspired. As I mentioned, I'm looking potentially to do the next special episode in May. So not the next one, the one after, which will be similar to how the format was with Phoebe. That will be really cool. That will be kind of like a live webinar session where we'll have like a specific focus subject matter. Naturally, it'll be around content. Before I go, I have got a question. Are we able to use any of the content on our own posts, i.e. screenshots or whatever? Yes, I don't see why not. I would just make sure that you obviously tag the relevant creator. If you're going to use other people's content, just make sure you reference and give them that credit. That's just really important, because stealing other people's posts is not cool. But yeah, just pop a reference to them, just so tag them and let them know. they'll be really appreciative of that as well. What I do as well is I obviously let people know about Inspired and who I'm featuring. And then tomorrow I'll do like a roundup piece of content that tags all the creators and links the post as well. So if you did miss any in the chat, you'll be able to access them tomorrow from my profile. So yeah, I hope that helps. Have a wicked rest of your day. Thank you for your time. And I will see you all very soon. See you later.